that's the thing about life is you never know where it's going to go. It's a journey. People come alongside you, and sometimes they have to go other ways. And a lot can change in a year. And that's why you're back on the show 365 days later, because it's been quite a year for you. Greetings, Red Tie community. This is the bald guy in the red tie, John Butler, your favorite bald-headed red tie wearing realtor, here in the studio on a very special occasion with a very special person with a very incredible story over this past 365 days, Miss Kris Carter. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah?
Today I am.
It's a day-by-day moment, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Definitely.
So for those who might remember the show, or maybe you've seen it on Facebook and YouTube and stuff like that, Kris and Tom Carter were on the show 365 days to the day. This time last year, they were on the show. And Tom was going through some medical issues, and he has now since relocated and moved into his new eternal mansion. So we are going to be talking about how this past year has been, what the journey's been like, the ups and downs, the beautiful stuff, maybe some of the ugly crying stuff. This is all part of the process.
Yes.
And so thank you for being on, and I think your words are about to have a lot of impact for people watching.
That's my hope. I know Tom would love that, because that's his dream of just being a voice for God.
Yeah.
So, and although I'm not the voice he was, but I hope I can inspire some people out there.
Absolutely, because life's a beautiful, wonderful thing, but with that, sometimes, I mean, it's just part of life is that, you know, death does happen.
Yes.
And it doesn't feel good. It's not fun to go through, especially when it's your life partner and your heart and soul. It's like you've lost a part of yourself. So grieving and that whole process, you know, it seems like you've been going through all the steps of the process.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So let's kind of pick it up where maybe the show left off last time. So as people kind of see in the shot there, you know, here's Tom and you a year ago.
Yes.
So that was in September.
September 16th, 2020.
2020.
Yep.
So what happened after the show? What kind of was that path, and walk us through that?
Well, first off, I want to say I'm wearing the same thing that I wore then, because I wanted John to feel comfortable, because I knew he'd be wearing the same thing. And I'm kind of weird when it comes to clothes. So anyways, so last year, after, you know, when we'd met last, he, you know, as he said in the last video, he was expecting to just get over his issues, the doctors to figure it out, and unfortunately they didn't. And he had some rough times in December, right around my birthday. He went into the hospital, and then he had to be on some feeding treatment. It's called TPN, and that was kind of when everything went downhill. And they said that he'd just have to be on it for a couple of weeks. And then it's, you know, that was the beginning of December. Then come January, he's still on it. The end of January, he's still on it. And, you know, the doctors kind of gave up. So that was really hard.
And for those that may not have seen the previous episode, what was his condition again?
Well, he was diagnosed with scleroderma, which is an autoimmune disease, back in March of 2018. Well, that's when he got sick, was March of 2018. We really didn't get it diagnosed till a little bit later after that. And then it attacks your organs. For him, it happened to attack his lungs. And then when we were on the show last year, too, he talked about January of 2020 is when he started getting his stomach issues. So that was hard, because then, I mean, like he said, he loved to eat. So trying to find the right foods for him to eat that would not upset him. And so then that's finally when they put him on the TPN to kind of figure out, you know, get him off of regular food to see what the issues are. And again, like, they kind of dropped the ball, and I actually fired the doctors, and he had a new appointment with a new rheumatologist actually on the day that he passed.
Wow.
So that was, I mean, I the doctor's calling him on his cell phone, and I answer the phone, and I have to tell him that, you know, he's no longer here. And that was just a weird thing that he, you know, but that goes to my whole how I can't break down, and because God knows the days and the numbers and I mean, I have scriptures, the Psalm 139, you know, our days are numbered. And that's my only hope, is as much as I did everything I could. I mean, getting him new doctors, doing all the treatments. I mean, you're supposed to do those things. You can't just sit and do nothing. But there was, you know, ultimately February 5th, 2021 was the day that God wanted him home. That was his day. So you know, I don't know how people, if you don't have Christ in your life, how when somebody passes, how you can be at peace, you know, because that's my peace right there.
Yeah.
So,
And so on February 5th, was he home or was he in the hospital?
no, he actually went in the hospital Tuesday night. He comes to me, and you know, as we're getting ready for bed, and he says, you know, I can't breathe. And I'm just like, okay. And I'm like, should I call an ambulance? And I'm like, no, you know, I'm thinking, you know, inland is like 2 minutes from our house. So I'm like, I'm not going to call an ambulance. And my brain's just going wild. And he was just like, I can't breathe. So we get in the car, and I take him to emergency. And of course, the whole COVID thing, we get there, and they just wheel him off and give him oxygen, and they tell me to go home. I'm like, okay. So then I get home, I call the emergency room and see how he's doing, and you know, checking up on him, and then that was Tuesday night, and then Wednesday he calls me from the hospital, and he's like, "Can you bring me my phone? Because you know I need to work." I'm like, okay.
Working up to the final days, huh?
So I bring him his phone, and we're, you know, texting back and forth all day and FaceTiming. And then that night, you know, we're texting, FaceTiming, and so that's Wednesday night. He's texting our daughter-in-law, and they're actually the last people that text back and forth with each other. And it was just beautiful text. Like, you know, at that point when Tom and I FaceTimed, he said, you know, I'm doing great. My oxygen's 98. But I read those texts, and I'm like, no, I think he knew something, you know, like he knew. So then at 6:36 Thursday morning, he went into cardiac arrest.
Wow.
And they resuscitated him. And then come to find out, he was out for 28 minutes. So that's just, you know, that's not good. And then they took him into the ICU. And so when they called me, so that was Thursday morning, and then the nurse on duty called me. It was like 7:30ish. And I'm in bed, and I'm just like numb. Like I'm just
Stuck in a bad dream kind of thing?
yeah. And then it just hits me, and I call my oldest daughter, Cassie, and I'm like, she couldn't even hear me. I was just like, whoa, you know, and at that time nobody even knew, or no, they did know he was in the hospital, but they didn't know, you know, like I didn't really tell them how bad it was, about it, you know, about him not breathing and stuff. I'm just like, yeah, he's, you know, back in the hospital, which, you know, he'd been a few times, so. But she's just like, okay, I'll be right over. So, and then I start walking down the stairs, and I just fall on the stair, and I'm just like, I can't even move. So, yeah.
It just hits you, huh?
Yeah. And so so my one daughter lives in LA. She came down right away. And then, of course, Thomas, you know, they all came to the house. And then with the whole COVID thing, they weren't going to let me see Tom. And I happened to have a friend that has like big high wig people in the hospital chain. And so they get on the horn, they call, and it was just amazing that. And I had to make a few phone calls, and we got to go in and see him. And first they told me 5 minutes. They're like, you can only see him for 5 minutes, and I'm like, okay, that's fine, whatever. And I go and I check in with the security guard, and he's like, he said, you can't go into the ICU, and I'm like, well, I have permission. Call there, And he's like, no, nobody can go into the ICU. So then he calls, and then he looks at, he's like, oh my gosh, you get to go in there. And then, so I went in, and the nurse on duty, she was from heaven. I mean, she was an angel from heaven. It was amazing. Because the other nurses that I talked to over the time that he was in there were just not very nice.
Right.
And I just happened to be, get this angel. And she let me stay in. She goes, you can stay as long as you want. And I'm like, and she saw my kids that were outside the window looking in. And she's like, do your kids want to come in? She goes, we're not allowed to do that. I mean, you're not even supposed to be in here. But she let the kids come in. So
God bless her heart.
yeah, it was just amazing. And the doctor was amazing. He came out and talked, told us what was going on. Then, our kids, myself and the kids, we just all prayed because we just, had to figure out what we were going to do next. And so, yeah, it was a roller coaster of emotions, a lot of, and my middle daughter's a nurse. So as soon as we're on the phone with the doctor on speaker, and when he said, that Tom was out for 28 minutes, my daughter just got white as a ghost because she knew, like, there's nothing you can do after that.
Just the oxygen, lack of oxygen and stuff like that to the brain.
To your brain, So, thank you, Jesus, that there was, like, these people that I couldn't imagine not being able to go in there and just, I just laid down with him, got to stroke his face, his hair, and and I think they say that they can hear you still. So I'm just talking to him, and it was amazing.
I mean, we don't know this side of heaven, but,
Right.
As a writer, I like to have a great imagination, but what do you think that transition's like? I mean, have you thought about that, or what do you think it was like for him, or?
I don't know. I mean, I just think that it was more wonderful than we can even imagine.
Words don't do it justice. Yeah.
I think I could think it in my brain, but to verbalize it, it's just too magnificent for words. I don't even think there's English words to describe it.
Yeah. So that was February 5th. And then what happened after that? Because, I mean, that's a...
Yeah.
You guys were together 30 years, 40 years?
We were together 39 years.
Wow.
Well, short a few, like a month. Yeah, because we were married. We would have been married 38 years on the day that I had his service was our anniversary. And then April 1st would have been our 39 years that we would have been together.
That's right, April Fool's Day.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Well, that ceremony, or the funeral was beautiful. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that was a beautiful church, and just, the people that got up and spoke, and then, you just being a pillar of strength. I don't know if you're just in what kind of mode that is, but man, you held it together.
Well, that was interesting because the kids and I were in the living room and discussing that day. And at first I was like, no, we're going to, let's do it right away. And all I knew is I wanted it to be a Friday because Friday was Tom's favorite day. And then nothing was jiving as far as dates. Like either the ranch that I was having it at couldn't do it, or the church couldn't do it. And then I was like, okay, well, our anniversary this year is on a Friday. And I'm like, so yeah, okay, let's do it on March 26th. So that was awesome too, the way that just worked out. And then I'm we're in the living room and I'm talking to the kids and I'm like, you know what? I don't think I could talk at the service. I'm just, for one, I do not like that at all. That's being in front of a bunch of people like that. It just freaks me out. And so I said, I'll write stuff and, one of you guys can talk for me And then later, I'm like in bed one night and I'm just like, oh my gosh, no, Tom would want me to do this. So I have to pull myself together, find the strength somehow, some way, and I need to do it. Mm-hmm. And then it was funny, the night before, Thursday night before the service, I get a call from our pastor, Pastor Brian Bell, and he's like, wow, Kris, I'm so impressed and so proud of you that you're going to talk tomorrow. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? I go, isn't that what wives do? And he's like, well, you'd be surprised. A lot of wives can't do it, or they don't want to do it. And so then I'm like, and then I told him, I'm like, well, I didn't want to, but I know Tom would be so proud that I could do that. And I go, I had to do it. So he's like, no, I'm glad. I'm so glad because he goes, a lot of times I think they regret not doing it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it was a great day, the service. I think it was totally what Tom would have wanted. The little after party that we had at our friend's ranch. I mean, they were our good friends, the ones that owned the ranch, Hawks Ranch and Marietta, and they were so gracious to let us have it there, and it was a blessing. And we had the DJ from Thomas's wedding, and I just wanted it to be a good celebration. I'm sure people were probably looking at me going, why is that lady that should be crying in the corner out there dancing the whole time? And I'm just like, the only thing that I thought about was this is what Tom would want. Yeah. So.
Well, and that's the beauty and the joy that believers have, that we have that reassurance of what that process is. We don't know all the details of it, but we know where we're going, and we know that the streets of gold up there are pretty awesome. Yes. And yes. And so there is a celebration. It's almost like your heavenly birthday, right? Mm-hmm. Like, cool. We're starting this. Here's the long, forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, you're forever home. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Mm. Yes.
How has your faith over this past year? Has it been all mountaintop experiences, or has it been shaking your fist and arguing with God a little bit sometimes, or has there been any of those kind of moments?
Yeah, so I'm in a grief share on Sundays at Calvary. I've been hit or miss. I haven't gone to I've missed a lot. So, but I mean, you can continue to go through them forever. I mean, as long as you need to, but that's one of our discussions all the time is how people feel, because most people do get angry with God. And I don't know. I never felt that.
That's good.
I felt, because there were so many big God miracles that happened from the, like, I mean, this is one of, like, in January, okay, Tom sold his car because he was going to go get another car, and it's a long story, but it didn't work out and all this stuff. But I'm like, just the fact that was not a burden for me, because, just selling his car, like, it was just perfect. And, I mean, there was just so many events that I knew God was in control. Yeah. I mean, we and this is another one, we refied our house. Mm-hmm. And we didn't want to do it. Like, we were always talking about it, going, no, because we had a great interest rate. I mean, there was a lot of things to it. And I'm like, well, why should we? We're on a plan to pay it off in 5 years by the time he retired. But something just clicked in me and said, you know what, yeah, we should refi. And it closed 3 days before he passed. Wow. And because of that, my payment is something I can manage now. Like, if I wouldn't have done that, then the payment was higher. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, it just blows me away that God just orchestrated all this. And then the other thing was November 20th of 2020. I have 2 childhood friends, and we've kept in contact, throughout the years. But I kept pushing, like, no, we need to get together. We need to meet up and have dinner. And I just pushed it and pushed it. So we did on that November 20th. And then we just reconnected like there was no time ever passed. Like we were still in junior high together. And we just made this pact that we'd just be besties forever. And I was like, and then, when Tom passed, they were at my house that Saturday morning with bags of food. They stayed the night, and and from that forward, they've just been a big support. Like I don't know what I would have done without that happening in November. And then they're just supporting me thus far, and it's just amazing that, because I didn't have a lot of girlfriends. Tom and I, like, we were best friends. He had all his work friends, which another thing, thank God, because all his friends from work are now have reached out to me, and I have this whole tribe of friends that just took me under their wing and have kept me busy doing fun things, going to the beach, going to concerts.
Going to the gym.
Going to the gym, yeah.
Shout out to Caesar.
Thank you, Caesar. But yeah, like Caesar. I mean, we've just gotten really close. I mean, he's always, I hang my license under him, so we've always been kind of close. But he's just been such a rock for me, just as so many of Tom's friends that they all knew me, but they kind of just knew me as the quiet, shy girl that just had this amazing husband. And now they see me as Kris. And, oh, yeah, she's fun. She's, and, so what a blessing that you could say that your, husband. Like there's that movie Collateral Beauty. It's a very good movie with Will Smith. So when you think of Collateral Beauty, by when he passes, the beauty that he left me with all these friendships, and I mean, they're just not friendships. These are girls that would do anything for me. So, and that's him. That's all him, because of the amazing person that he was.
I think that was my biggest takeaway from the funeral service was, I didn't hear anybody get up there and talk about how he was, closing lots of title orders or how much money he made. And, what I heard was he was that person that lifted you up. He was that person that was always with you. He was the Jesus with skin. He was the person that had a huge impact. And so it's funny how society and the world, especially American Southern California society, it's about, I'm going to be this super successful and all these, and Tom was successful, but that's not what people were talking about.
Right.
People were talking about that love and that impact that he left and that legacy. And I walked away very impacted by that because we all do have a day where it's time to go home, and to see what he left behind and then to see those fruits, that's beautiful.
Right. Yeah. I mean, my 3 kids are as big as fruit as you can see.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw how amazing they were at the service.
Yeah.
I mean, my middle daughter, who's like her mommy, who's shy and, very crying, though, very sensitive and crying the whole time. But, poor thing, could barely hear her. But yeah, all my kids are just amazing because they had Tom that raised him. I mean, it's funny that YouTube last year, he's giving me all this credit of, I did this amazing job and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, no, our kids are great because of you. So
How have the kids been this past year or the past 8 months?
Yeah. It's been rough, for them, obviously. We had when my middle daughter had a baby that was born in June. So that's the only baby that Tom didn't get to meet. So, you know, it was rough. All my kids were really close to Tom, for sure. And my son went through a really hard time because, I mean, they were best friends. They talked every day. So that it was really hard for him at the beginning, and I think he, you know, had to go seek out some counseling. But he's doing better now.
Yep.
So he and his wife started going to Calvary, and they were kind of dabbling into it, but now they're going. And Hannah got baptized in July, the weekend after Tom's birthday celebration we had at the beach for Tom for his birthday on July 18th. Then that next Sunday, Hannah got baptized, and I was just like, wow, Tom is just rejoicing in heaven right now, because he would send her scriptures every day, and I mean that is all on him. He saved us all.
He was planting seeds.
Yes, yeah, and so that makes me happy.
You know, and going back to the service, you know, that Tom's impact was planting seeds, you know, and it's so cool to hear that story about how, you know, sometimes we don't always see the fruits of our labor.
Yes.
And but that's awesome. It's
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes.
You'll be full of
Yeah.
joy. So you brought your journal there. Is there anything you want to
Yes.
Sure.
One of my childhood girlfriends, they're so funny. They sent me this journal. It's
What camera should we show to? That one?
oh, yeah, so it's pretty awesome because that's the truth.
Yes,
you know?
it does.
Yeah, and so and then of course I have my scriptures on the Psalms, and then
Has there been a psalm that has particularly stuck out to you that has kind of given you that comfort or strength to get through those rougher moments, or something that just really is?
not particularly. I mean, somebody else gave me a daily devotional, so there's been a lot of stuff I've gleaned from that that have just been like perfect. So
If you read through Psalms and open up your Bible, it's just all highlighted.
yeah,
That's the beauty of Psalms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah. So the whole thing too. So you know, which is okay. So Tom passes on February 5th, and his, you know, I'm like, oh my goodness, my income has just like stopped. Like as of today. And so his company, Corinthian Title and Escrow, the big COO, Jeff Fox, gives me a call, and he's like, we want to hire you. And we know that as of March 1st, you know, you're not going to have medical or dental or any of your benefits. And I'm like, okay, I didn't think about that. I mean, I just thought I was not going to have an income, but yeah, I'm not going to even have any benefits. And he's like, so we're going to start you on February 16th. He's like, not that you have to start working that day, you know, we'll ease you into it. But, and I was just like, wow, okay. Now I know why Tom went to go work for you guys. I mean, just the fact that God orchestrated that too, because
God has his fingerprints all
I
over
know.
this whole transition.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way all of our lives are, but it's just amazing how sometimes we just go and we get up, we do what we're doing, we go to bed, we wake up, you know, and you don't really step back and say, wow, this just happened, and this happened, and that happened, and giving the glory to God in everything. I mean, that was nothing. I mean, I didn't even have to give these people a resume. They just like, we're hiring you. I'm like, okay, sounds
That
good
door
to me.
flew open, didn't it?
Yes, and And the transition was perfect, how it all worked out. And, I just kind of eased into the position. And then now, because as you know, when I worked with you, I like to be busy. Like, if there's downtime, I'm going crazy. So now I'm busy. I mean, I go to work and I'm busy and I'm loving it. And I thought, wow, if I wouldn't have had this job to go to every morning, what would I've done? I mean, I'm still not going to go sit in a corner and cry because Tom would be so mad at me. But to have purpose, to get up every morning, I mean, I'm sure I could go hang out at my kids' house every day and play with my grandkids, but I mean, come on, this is now is talking about life being different. I mean, prior to that, that's what I was doing, was watching TK every day for the most part. And then now this is, not to sound selfish, but now this is Kris's time. I've raised my kids. I was there for the most part for my grandkids when they needed me. And now I need to start a whole new chapter for myself.
Whole new book?
Yes, it is. I mean, it is. I'm starting from scratch, and I just know that Tom would want me to have the best from here on forward. He would not want me to not have the best. And that's what I'm striving for. I have the best girlfriends. I have a great job. I can still live in my home. And I have a car to drive. I mean, just, it's like, yeah. It's like you got to look at those blessings.
So I don't know if this is too big of a question at this point, but I mean, what does the next year look like, or 5 years, or I mean, are you thinking that far ahead, or is it just day by day?
It's funny because I was thinking when you asked that question to Tom and I, and what his answer was, travel. We're gonna travel.
I know. I guess it's a silly question to ask because we just don't know. But.
Right. I do know that that I am going to travel.
Good.
I have a couple trips planned, and with girlfriends, and we're, it's just, just as far as future, I don't know. I'm open for anything, and I just want to live life to its fullest, be happy. I mean, I know that happiness has to come from myself. No one's going to make me happy. And it's kind of a weird thing because I always thought, Tom made me happy. Like, so then when somebody's gone, and then you start thinking, well, no, he didn't make me happy. It was me. And it was because of the way he treated me, that made me happy, but
he absolutely adored you.
Yeah, he did. When I was watching, the last time I watched the YouTube thing today, or actually watched some of it today, and at the end, there was one part where he's looking at me while I'm talking, and I'm just like, wow.
I know the look that you're talking about, because I thought the same thing when he was looking at you. Like, you could just see it. Yeah. You were his queen.
Yeah. So.
And I think that was the beauty of. I'm so glad that show happened.
I know. Me too.
It was.
See, another. I mean.
Yeah.
Goodness.
God coordinated that too.
He did.
So I reached out to him. I mean, we had known each other from the exit days and just being in the real estate industry and stuff like that. But we all have different paths and realms that we run in and stuff like that. But I don't know if it was a few weeks before that or a few days before that. But I was just like, Tom kept popping up on my heart. Hey, you need to have him on the show. Have him on the show. And then it happened. And I'm so glad it did because that's the beauty of this format, is that you can share stories, and in a way, it's it's out there to live. It has a life of its own, and it's really cool when people do come across this video and they'll say, "Oh man, it's good to hear his voice or his laugh or see that stare to Kris and stuff like that." So it really captures that moment.
Right. Yeah, and that was So actually, I wasn't supposed to be there that day. I mean, you invited Tom, and then last minute, Tom's like, you should come too. And I'm like, it was funny because I was getting my Peloton bike was getting delivered that day, and I'd waited, I don't know, back then because of COVID, it was
Right.
like months to get it. And they didn't tell you what time or anything. And I'm like, well, if I get it in time, and I'll be there. And it just so happened that it worked out that I was able to be there. And like now in hindsight, I'm like, wow, so glad. I mean, I can't believe that I wouldn't have made it, but just because, even back then, just because he was, because he was ill. I mean, we didn't think that. I mean, we were planning 5, 10, 20 years out. I wasn't thinking that was going to be an issue. I didn't think, a little less than 5 months later, and he's gone.
Yeah, the conversation that day was very hopeful, left on a high note.
Yeah.
It certainly wasn't a poor me by any means. I mean, I think what I got from the episode was just that divine internal persistence, that godly hope that he had. I mean, like you're saying, I mean, he was into that book, and which I'm about 50 pages into, by the way, so I'm reading it. And but there was hope.
Yeah, yeah.
Bright future ahead.
Well, he had a lot to live for.
Yeah.
I mean, he said that a lot. There's a lot of, because I go into my memories, or I try. I don't do it every day, but I try to go into like his memories, because a lot of times he'll have memories way from back when I wasn't on Facebook. So, and then I'll tag myself. So then now, I'll get them to come up on mine. But he had he made a lot of comments like, I have a lot to live for. And I mean, not that that's going to make a difference, because again, it's not our will, it's God's will. He knows when our last breath's going to be taken. But he was fighting, for sure. He was a fighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any lessons that you want to share with anyone? Any takeaways?
Well, just I guess my takeaway is just pretty much what we've already said about just the whole fact of, my peace is knowing that there's nothing we could have done, that, when it was his time, it was his time. So, because I could have, beat myself up and said I could have done this, could have done that. I mean, I really probably could have a malpractice suit with Kaiser, just because lack of medical things. I mean, he had an appointment with his pulmonologist, and they canceled last minute on him because he was working the COVID ward. But then they didn't schedule him with somebody else. And I'm like, well, that's, and then it ends up that part of why you went into cardiac arrest was because of some rare, I can't remember the name of it. The nurse wrote it down on a yellow sticky and said, we've never even heard of this, and this is what he ended up passing from. That gave him the cardiac arrest. But it's like, well, maybe if he would have went to the pulmonologist, they would have caught it like a few weeks earlier. I don't know. I mean, again, you can do all that and beat yourself up, but it's out of our control. Yeah. We are not in control of what happens. God is. And I just, and my other takeaway is I just know that Tom wants me to be happy. He's wanted that my whole life since I've known him, and so that's what I'm striving for is to make every day a good day. There's I mean, today, and without even thinking, I had to go do a delivery before work this morning, and I'm driving, and I had to drive by the hospital, and I'm like, no, I don't like driving by the hospital, but that's the way the navigation took me. And, and then of course I get all, teary-eyed, but, not to say that that'll get less and less, but as time goes on and I'm moving forward, I'll never move on, but I will move forward in my life.
Like they say, crying cleanses the soul.
It does. It does. I've had some tremendous crying fests, but I know that would make them sad too. So, and I don't know why I want to try. I try to do things that I know that would not make him sad. if that makes any sense. But I would do a lot of music was his thing, right? And so every night I'll play music and I'll dance, and that has been so therapeutic.
Yeah.
And people are like, "That's kind of crazy." And I'm like, "Well, it's not like I dance all night till 4 in the morning.
Right.
I mean, like I just started this ritual where I'll play music and I'll dance, and it just makes me so happy." So, and that was, we did a lot of dancing at home, well, in and out too, but like we'd be just home on a Friday night, just the two of us dancing. And so it's sad because I think, I go to his music room and I'm like, oh gosh, 10 years from now we would have been retired, and we'd sit in the music room, we would reminisce about, remember when the kids did this or something. It's like, now I don't have anybody to do that with. So that stuff pops in your head and gets you all.
Gets you.
Yeah, gets you. So, but.
Any song in particular that touches your heart, like it just captures a beautiful memory or a moment for you?
Well, I can only imagine.
Love that
and
one.
then that plays. I cry every time. And then one of our friends, Ron and Marissa Thompson, who Ron was, he called Tom Papa. They had this really great bond, and he made this beautiful picture frame, and it has all the words of "I Can Only Imagine" and shaped in like a 45. And then he has Tom wrote him a scripture because he would send him scriptures every morning, and then he wrote something and it had to do with that song, and it was like that December prior, and so they put that on there too. I mean, they give me this gift and I'm just like, oh my God. It was like the most perfect gift.
Beautiful.
It was beautiful. And just things like that people do, and it just brightens your day. So, but yeah, we have, there's not one song, there's many songs that we had that meant a lot between the two of us. So, a lot of Dave Matthews songs. It took me a while to where I couldn't even listen to a Dave Matthews song.
Yeah.
So, but,
What was your reaction when I sent you the story of the Dave Matthews dance? Was that hard to receive? I never know what it's like on the other end of it. And I always hesitate sending those stories.
I just remember bawling, but it wasn't obviously not a bad bawling. I mean, it was just so perfect and so touching, and I couldn't imagine anything better. And I mean, that's why I wanted you to I was very particular on who I wanted to speak, at the service, and basically just, family members. But I want, that's why I asked you to do that, because it was perfect. I mean, it was totally inspired by God, because the words were totally us. I mean, I know you know us, but I'm like, he doesn't know us that well.
Right.
So, it was perfect.
When I have those moments of writing, I pray over it, and I just ask for that anointing, and God, write through me. I'm just the vessel, let the words flow, kind of thing. And sometimes when I'm writing those stories, I'll get shivers, kind of thing, like that divine currency going through. And but it's funny because I'm still, I'm not some saint up in a castle writing a story, like, oh, I'm hearing for the word of God. It's like I'm battling the whole time, like, I'll get up from my desk and walk away, like, oh, this is dumb. I shouldn't do this, and it's that battle,
that struggles,
right?
yeah.
But then when it all gets done and put together, and then, you know, I'm glad that, you know, I'm glad that that meant something beautiful to you.
Yeah, I need to write it out, or, you know, type it out or something and frame it. I need to do something like that and put it right next to the I can only imagine thing that I have. That would be perfect. Yeah. Yeah. And then, cause I have his ashes there too, and in his music room. And so, yeah, we had a nice celebration for his birthday. We went to the beach, and actually we had a videographer come and video the whole thing. And then another thing that my friend Diane Hoffman, she found this gentleman who writes songs, and you meet and talk with him and kind of give him like, you know, your life story together and just all these bits and pieces. I mean, it's been going on since March, and he's just now finishing it this month.
Wow.
So it's a huge process. And so I'm going to get this song that's going to be inspired by Tom and myself and my kids. And
I can't wait to hear that.
I know. It just...
What a beautiful use of that gentleman's talent.
Yes.
That is incredible. That is cool.
Yes. Yes.
And that's something that you can have. Is it going to be like an acoustic, or is it kind of like all instruments?
I have no idea. I'm
surprise?
just... Yeah. I mean, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm just, whatever it is going to be, I know it's going to be beautiful and meaningful. And then I'm waiting to see the video too that we took on Tom's birthday to see, you know, that was great. I gave the kids all gifts that were Tom's, and I gave my son Tom's, and, you know, his wedding ring. So now he's wearing that. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Was that his original ring when you guys got married?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
That's neat.
Yep.
That's a lot of history. That's very special.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Original wedding. I mean, I have my original wedding ring too. We were never ones, like, always thought, oh, you know, your 20-year anniversary, your 30-year anniversary, like, I want to upgrade and get this big old rock,
right,
you know. But my ring was so special that I couldn't. It had this diamond in the middle, which I said signified Tom and I becoming one, and then it had 3 diamonds on the side, which was each of my kids. And I'm like, how did I know? You know. And then it has like the fish symbol on the side.
Yeah.
And we weren't even Christians back then.
Wow.
So, I mean, I just love. I mean, I can't even wear it. So this is my. I don't know. I put this on Facebook too, so a lot of people. But I got this cross. And so I had to replace it. I can't wear my wedding ring right now, but I love this, you know. So, and I never take it off. And then I have this bracelet that my daughter gave me, and it is so cool. It says, and it's in Tom's handwriting. And so so I got it off of one of his thousands of cards that that guy was so romantic.
Yeah.
He would give me cards. And then he would write paragraphs in the cards. Like,
doesn't just sign his name.
No.
Yeah.
No, he never just signed. Now, me, on the other hand, it was like, I love you, Kris, and that was it.
Yeah.
He would write, I mean.
From the heart.
Man.
Yeah.
I'm like, so it says, I love you, Tom, and it's in his writing.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's teeny tiny. But
It's amazing that they could do that, though.
I
That is
know.
incredible.
Yeah, so this I don't ever take off. Oh, yeah, that's. It was a great life.
It was a beautiful love story. 2 wonderful characters. You guys made a big impact, and you both affected a lot of lives, and you are still continuing to affect a lot of lives. And his legacy is still affecting a lot of lives. And it's going to be really cool to get up to heaven and see where he moved into, and see the big DVR on the screen of heaven, and you know, those are my hopes and imaginations.
That's
But
okay. Yeah. So you were asking me what do I think heaven is like and all that. So that's you. There's going to be a big DVR player going.
well, I was thinking, this, you know, I think it'd be really cool to be like, hey God, can you show us you know, how you made the dinosaurs? Hey God, can you show us how the universe was created? Hey God, you know, like, I don't know. And he goes, But again, I think we will get up there and we'll be so blown away by all the newness that you're going to quickly forget about the
Right,
earth.
right.
But that's all I can.
Yeah. Well, that's what Thomas said at the service. Remember when he said, I'd love to see my dad play football.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe, yeah.
The DVR.
Yeah, he could have a DVR and see his dad playing football.
DVR in heaven. I mean, it's not like God couldn't do that.
Oh, of course. Do whatever he wants. He's God.
But, well, thank you for coming on today. Is there any final thoughts or?
I don't think so. Let me check my notes just in case I forgot anything. I think amazingly enough, I covered everything.
Well, I was very impressed that you reached out and wanted to
do this.
and do this
Yes.
today. And
Yeah.
because I know it was going to be, that first year after losing someone is very difficult. And but you've had that strength that comes from your faith and your love for your husband. And but for those who don't know Kris's personality, she's not one to be in front of the camera. She likes to be the background support kind of person.
Yes.
And so for you to reach out and say, "Hey, I want to do the show," I'm
know.
like, "Okay, let's do it."
Right.
So
I just thought it would be very therapeutic for me. And so, yeah, it's like God telling me, do this, Kris, do this. You need to do this. Because again, this is not your comfort zone. So let's shake you and make you grow and be, just be a different person. Not a different person, but I mean, it's good. It's good for the soul.
yeah.
So, I mean, I had my husband who was the forefront man. I mean, we'd go places and
Everybody knew him.
everybody
Yeah.
knew him. He was the jokester. He was the big personality. And, I've had a lot of people recently, tell me like, you were just so shy and you never talked. And people kind of thought you were stuck up. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but I'm like the least stuck up person. When you get to know me,
Yeah.
maybe I seem that way from afar, but and I feel bad if that's the impression I give. But just quiet and
now you're stepping into the new Kris.
yes,
The new chapter of the
the
new
new
book.
chapter. Yes,
That's fun
Yeah.
and exciting because it's kind of a blank canvas.
yeah, yeah.
Exciting and scary.
Yes, and yeah, and the other thing is like I've never lived by myself before, so thank you that I can be alone. Like I don't have to be with people, and then I always think about if the roles were reversed, like Tom could not be by himself. I don't know, he'd be living with one of the kids for sure. So, but God kind of equipped me for this. I mean, I feel like he knew my personality and knew that I could handle this, So, I mean, right away, Thomas wanted me to go move in with him. He's like, Mom, I know you've never been by yourself, and if you need to come move in with us, we're totally fine with that. And I'm like, no, I'm okay, I'm good, So I'll have the grandkids come and spend the night if here and there when I'm feeling like I need somebody, but yeah. So, yeah, Thomas was cute too. He said something about for the future, like the dating thing. He said, it made me just laugh. He's like, Mom, I've known you all my life. You're a beautiful woman, and I know you won't be single, for the rest of your life.
True.
And I thought, how mature. And it made me crack up because it's like, oh, my son thinks I'm beautiful. Oh.
Well, when that time comes, I'm sure you'll have plenty of suitors.
Well, I don't know about that, but thank you.
Or hopefully just the one that
That God has
Yeah.
designed for me. Exactly.
and I'll leave you off with some encouragement here is my grandmother my grandfather passed away when he was 60 and so she was about the same age, 58, 59 kind of thing, and they had 7 kids together, married about 40, 45 years. I mean, just a long time. And then, she went through the grieving process, but then she ended up dating and did life 2.0. And they absolutely adore each other, and they've been married for about 25 years now.
Oh, wow.
So, combined, she's been in a marriage for a total of 65 years. But, and that's the beauty of God, is that he makes things new. And, but you could still honor in the beautiful blessing that you've had. But, God is a God of endless blessings, and so there's always something around the corner. So it's going to be exciting when that time comes and that season comes.
Yes.
In its own season.
Yes.
But it'll be beautiful. It'll be joyous.
Definitely. But yeah, I'm in no hurry. I mean, I'm actually enjoying my my alone time and my grieving time and my fun time with my girlfriends, and it's all good. It's all good because I had, like I said earlier, I had a good life with my husband.
Yeah.
And I feel blessed that I had that, because some people don't even have that,
True.
And so I'm very grateful. And I mean, it's weird too. My word for this year was contentment. And I'm like, wow, God, you knew that was the perfect word for me too, because wow, is this a year I need to be content?
That's a big word. It's got a lot of meaning there. That's awesome.
Yeah. So.
Well, I'm proud of you. I think you've had a beautiful journey, and
Thank you.
there's more to come.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So any final thoughts?
No, nope. Just thank you for letting me be here
Anytime.
and cleanse my soul.
See you next year for 2022.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
We'll make this a yearly thing.
That would be awesome.
Awesome. Well, folks, that concludes this beautiful, heart-touching story and episode of the Red Tie Community Show. And folks, I think one of the biggest takeaways is that this life is about relationships. This life is about loving others, and more importantly, about having a relationship with your Creator, with Jesus. He did die on the cross for your sins, and we're all dirty, rotten sinners. We all fall short of the glory of God. But the beauty of having that relationship and having Him walk alongside you on that journey of life as you get to those final moments and those final days is so important. So if you feel that on your heart, reach out to me, reach out to Kris, reach out to whoever God puts in your life. But make sure you get to know your Lord and Savior before that day happens. And that concludes this episode of the Red Tie Community Show with John Butler, the ball guy in the red tie, and Kris Carter saying bye.